As to how I got the idea, it's funny. I went to see a lecture by a guy named David Nevins, who's this famous TV executive, who's produced a lot of successful shows, groundbreaking shows. And he said something that stuck with me, which is he said, the best TV shows are the ones that address our deepest fears.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. And I started this podcast for you, folks who want to learn more about the writing craft, listen to amazing award-winning best-selling authors talk about their writing journeys and their books, and to keep going on the writing journey because I know it can be tough. So this podcast is for you. Welcome. And if you like today's episode, please consider subscribing over at YouTube, follow me on Spotify, and leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you think of today's episode. And be sure to head over to artbyruth.com because my next project, Book 3 in the Desert Shadows Suspense series, Fatal Truth, comes out in late July, and I'm feverishly working on that book. And also my next coloring book, and I'm starting to brainstorm my next standalone suspense book. So sign up for my newsletter so you can be aware of all these upcoming projects, and I give away a free book every month. That's artbyruth.com. Okay, let's get started. Matt Whitten is with me today. He is a television writer. He has written for Law & Order, House, Pretty Little Liars, and many other shows. But he's also a novelist. And so he's going to talk to us today about the difference between writing a novel and TV writing. And he's also a playwright and a screenwriter. I mean, he's done it all. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Matt Whitten talk about his life and his new book, 51%. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited to be speaking with Matt Whitten, who is a TV writer and a novelist. Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you, Ruth. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I mean, this is so exciting. You're the first TV writer, playwright, screenwriter, and also a novelist that I've ever interviewed. So I'm so excited. I have a lot to ask you. However, why don't we start off with you telling my listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I actually started writing as a poet when I was 6 years old. I wrote poems about how my favorite baseball team, the Baltimore Orioles, was going to defeat the hated Yankees. And then,
cute.
yeah. And then when I was in 10th grade, I had a crush on my drama teacher, and she suggested that I write a play. So I did. And the play was performed at the local Methodist church for the women's group there, and I got $10. So I was hooked.
I bet that was your first paying gig, right?
It was good money. And then when I was 18, I got an undiagnosed illness, and I was sick for about 2.5 months. And I told myself, I promised myself that if God willing, I got healthy again, that I would remember that being a writer was at the core of my being, and I would keep doing it. And so I did get healthy, and I kept my promise to keep on writing. I'd say there was one time where I got a little nervous when I wasn't making any money for a while, and I applied to law school. But
Mm.
except for that, I held pretty steadfast, and I've been writing ever since. I started out as a playwright, which was my first love, and then I switched to novel writing, which I also loved. Then I got a phone call to, work on the TV show Law and Order, and I
Mm.
moved to Los Angeles with the family, and we did that for about 25 years, and now I've gotten back into novel writing at this point, which is tremendous fun, and I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it not quite as much work as writing for television when you write a novel?
Oh, it's different work. It's the greatest thing about it is it's my passion. It comes from my
Mhm.
heart. When I'm writing someone else's TV show, my main job is to sort of write, what makes the head writer happy and sort of get into, their head and sort of that's my job. And when I write a novel, it's like whatever I most want to write is what I'm going to write. So that's the best thing about it. And the worst thing is that it doesn't pay as much money. So, yeah, I don't know. There's different things about it. But
Yeah, that is the downside, huh? But you're right. I mean, it has to be something you're passionate about. And it sounds like since a young age, you have been passionate about expressing yourself through words. And the fact that you started with poetry at age 6, oh my goodness, writing about baseball. That is so cute. I love that. Now I know you're on the East Coast, so baseball is extremely significant out there. Out here in the desert Southwest, not as much. I
yeah,
think we
right. You
lean,
just have spring training.
yeah, we just get the spring training teams out here, so that's fun. I think we lean a little bit more toward basketball out here. But the Diamondbacks did win the World Series a gazillion years ago, so that was cool. But you all, I mean, you live and breathe baseball out there. So I think that's neat that as a kid you wrote a poem about it.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun. So and I still root for the Baltimore Orioles. I've actually gotten more into basketball myself now. I'm loving the San Antonio series. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Well, so writing for television. Wow. How did you get into that?
well, I had written a stage play called Washington Square Moves that a manager saw, and then meanwhile I had written a play called The Deal that an agent saw in Los Angeles. And so they called me up and suggested that I get into TV writing. And it hadn't, been a dream of mine. Some folks, start watching TV from an early age and get hooked and they want to write, and that's all they want to do. But for me, it was just like, okay, sounds good. And so they got me a meeting. They got me a freelance episode with the TV show Homicide, which I wrote the freelance episode. And then they got me a meeting with the Law and Order head writer down in New York City. So I was living in Saratoga Springs, New York at the time. I took a train down to New York City, met the head writer, and I had come prepared with about six TV show ideas for TV episodes of Law and Order, and I had them all in a folder. And I ran them by the head writer. His name was Rene Balsay. Ran them by Rene, one at a time. Each one he said no. Each one he
Oh,
said no, and they were just one idea was worse than the next. But sometime in there, I had wanted to sound interesting to Rene, so I told him that I worked part-time teaching college and prison. I taught a playwriting workshop, playwriting program in prison. And
wow.
so when Renee found that out, after I pitched him my six ideas that were not very good, he said, we've been trying to crack a TV episode set in a prison. So just sitting there with Renee at this hotel bar, we came up with, an idea for a prison episode. And I immediately acted like he'd already hired me. I started writing it down in my notebook that I brought with me, you know. And on the cab ride, yeah, it was a cab ride because I had to catch the train, so I didn't take a subway. So anyway, on the cab ride back up to the train station, I had like one of those big cell phones they used to have. It was like as big as I
Oh,
don't know,
like a satellite one? Yeah.
yeah, they were huge. And anyway, I got a call from my manager saying, "Oh, you just got the job." So I got the job working, writing that freelance episode. I co-wrote it with this guy Richard, and so the episode was shot, and afterwards the head writer Renee said, "I'd like to see your draft from before Richard rewrote it. I want to see your writer's draft." So I sent it to him, and a few months later he called me, and he said, "Man, I loved your writer's draft." And he said, "Well, what had happened? I should back up a little bit. I had in my script I had put the word riot in there, and then I asked a corrections officer, friend of mine, to read the script. And when he read the script, he said." I really like the script. He said, one thing, in prison, we wouldn't call it a riot. We would call it a multiple man fight. And
Uh,
I said, "Are you serious? That sounds really weird." He said, "No, really, that's what we would call it." I said, "Okay, I guess I'll do that then." So anyway, so a few months later, when Renee called, he said, "Man, I loved your script." He said, "Multiple man fight." He said, "Oh man, multiple man fight, multiple man fight." And he kept saying that like over and over, like 20 times. And so then after he was done saying it, he said, "So I'd like to offer you a job to, write on staff, come out to LA
wow.
and write on staff." And so I always say to myself that Charlie, and I told him, Charlie, the corrections officer who told me multiple man fights, is responsible for my TV career.
I was going to say that thanks to him, huh?
Yeah,
Who would have thought? I never in a million years would have thought it was
yeah,
called that. That
yeah,
is incredible. And so,
yeah.
yeah, so having the agent in LA contact you about that got everything going, right? Got the ball going.
Yeah, yeah, just
Wow.
came out of nowhere. What happened
Mm.
was he was actually the first guy that called me, and he was trying to get me work for a year or two, and then he said, it's hard doing it when you're up in upstate New York, and I'm just having trouble. How about if we get you a manager too? So manager, I mean, an agent takes 10% of your money, a manager takes 15% usually. So it was kind of weird because it's like, well, I'm going to be given 25% of my money. But my wife reminded me that I was getting $0 from the TV. So 25% of $0 wasn't much to worry about.
Oh man, I tell you. But that
Mhm.
must be such a great feeling though to see your name on the screen for the writing credits.
It is a great feeling, and whenever I'd have a TV show come up on the screen, I'd always have a little party at my house. We had not a huge living room, but we'd have maybe 8 or 10 people sitting in there, and just to sit there with the other people, and the show would come on, and at that, I mean, starting out it was Law and Order, and the show would be happening, and I'd be like, oh man, this is boring. I'd get really frustrated, but then I realized that was only because I know who done it. You know. And they
Yeah.
were all watching it for the first time and they were, loving it. And so I'd watch it with them. And then after the show was on, and the guests went home, I'd go upstairs to this porch off of the bedroom and I would just sit by myself and have some ice cream and just say to myself, man, I did that. That was really a trip.
Yeah.
And just the idea that, this was before DVRs and things. Just the idea that 10 million people had just seen that episode, had seen something I'd written, that night. That's definitely a trip for sure.
Yeah, that must be a fantastic feeling.
Hmm.
And to see them, the actors speaking your words,
Yep,
right?
yeah.
Oh
Speaking the
man.
words and doing them better than I could have imagined. I mean,
Yeah,
when you're,
they know how to do the facial expressions and the gestures and but still
yeah.
that's got to be incredible.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was. It was, I don't do it so much anymore because I've switched to novel writing, although I'm still getting some TV work. We could talk about that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a trip. It's also a trip, as a playwright, just sitting in the crowd. That's another kind of high. When you sit in the audience with everybody and you could feel, like when you've got them, when the play has them, they're just watching with rapt attention or they're laughing. And when they're a little bit bored and they're shifting in their seats and they're coughing a little bit. So you get to experience the highs and the lows. And then, of course, when you write a novel, it's a different kind of thing because people aren't
Yeah.
near you. So I, sometimes I like to put my feet up and have a cup of tea when I'm reading. So I like to picture my readers, with the feet up and a cup of tea and
And
reading the
getting into your
novel.
story. Yeah.
Right.
But I know what you mean. And I would think as a novel writer, there's some similarities in that as a playwright or writing for TV, you're creating these characters and giving them their words. But when you're writing a novel, you create these characters and give them their words, but you control everything, what they're doing
Hmm.
with their hands, how their
Hmm.
face contorts, if they're sweating or not. But on as a playwright and a writer for television, the actors can kind of take their own uh, be autonomous about that and do their own thing, right? Did that ever affect you sitting there watching your play and watching these characters maybe doing some things that you didn't really have in your head when you were writing the words?
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes it was a good feeling, and you'd see these guys just, oh my God, I can't believe they found that in the script, and they're doing this just the way they say it, and the
Mm.
intensity is just a million times better than I would be able to say it. Even though I thought of it, and that's just a real joy, and uh,
Yeah.
and that was by and large the case in TV. And the other great thing about TV and movies is that they get a million takes. So even if they mess it up once, then just doesn't matter. They just do it again.
Yeah.
Theater is a little bit different because it's there it's only one take every single night, and also the actors. I've worked with some great actors in theater, but in general, there's more actors in theater that maybe aren't maybe aren't quite as good. So there were certainly occasions in theater where I was pretty frustrated. I had one show that I don't know. I had a show that was done in New York City and Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, the main character is about a homeless guy who lives in Washington Square. And in Los Angeles, the guy who played it, terrific actor named Robert Gossett. The guy who played it, like he came on like filled with joy and like, listen, I know I'm a homeless guy in Washington Square, but I'm gonna be having fun. I'm playing chess. I'm the best chess player in Washington Square. I beat all comers. This is my home. This is my territory. And man, and you just like the way he played it, you just wanted to be there with him. It was just so much fun. Then the guy in New York played it like, man, I'm a homeless guy. Yeah, I'm playing chess, whatever, whatever like, rah, rah, rah. And he had like an ugly hat that he wore, and the stage was too dark, and it was like, and there's no way, as an audience member, you wanted to spend time with this guy. He just wasn't fun. So like just watching this New York production, the New York production came about like 3 weeks before the LA production, maybe 4 weeks. And the New York production, I was like, oh man, this isn't the play I thought of. And is it my fault it's so down? And like this, I just felt, basically terrible. And then I go to Los Angeles and oh my God, this is the same play. This is so much fun. And the audience was having a good time and it won all these awards and stuff. And it was like, so that anyway, so yeah, you get a lot of different experiences when you have an actor doing your words. And in general, I'm grateful to actors. They're terrific and
Yeah.
see things that I don't.
And I'm sure with the directors too, they have their
There's
own vision, right?
they have their own vision. There was
Sets
a
and
great
yeah.
director named Lloyd Richards. He was the guy who directed the premiere of A Raisin in the Sun, and he directed the premiere of August Wilson's plays. And he said that he's passed away now, but he said that there's a point during a production where the director knows more about the play, understands the play better than the playwright does. And he
Mm.
says that's always terrifying for the playwright. And then he said, and there's a point in the play where the actors know the characters better than the director does. And that's terrifying for the director. Um, but it's also a joy. You got to, if you're writing a play or a TV show or a movie, you just got to give it up and go with the flow and enjoy it.
Now, let's talk about your book, which came out in April.
Yep.
51%. Tell us about this story.
Well, this story takes place 20 years from now, and I used to say it took place 30 years from now, but after all the 1 year of the Trump administration, I've kind of knocked it down to 20 years. It's a world where the big six corporations own just about everything. They own parks, they own streets, they own schools, they own police departments, and they even own people. A lot of people are over 51% owned, which makes them like indentured servants. The corporations can pretty much tell them what to do. So in this world, there's two reluctant heroes. There are detectives with the New York Police Department Incorporated, and they're private like everybody else. And they've got a homicide to investigate. And here, if you want to investigate a homicide, you got to raise money yourself to solve the murder. So you got to go to the victim's relatives, you got to go to their neighbors, their church, you crowdfund it, you go to Kickstarter,
Mm.
and that's how you do it because everything is about money in this world. It's all about money. So these guys, they're investigating the murder of a poor young immigrant woman, and they're not going to make any money off of her because her family's far away. She's got no money. Her friends have no money. Nobody's going to have heard of her. She's an immigrant, like which is also against her in some ways, financially. And so one of the detectives is like, we can't investigate this murder because we'll be lucky if we get $20 from it. And this detective, she's pregnant, she's broke, she's been eating nothing but oatmeal for the last 3 weeks. She's her fiance, his dad, he was killed. He was an NYPD Inc. officer. And she's also 20% owned. She gave up 20% of her income for the next 10 years so she could go to high school and college because that's how they do it. And if she has complications with her pregnancy, she could wind up being 51% owned. And then that's obviously no good for her, and it's certainly not good for her unborn daughter either.
Mm.
So she's like, forget this, murder. I'm sorry, we got to go and investigate this, rich plastic surgeon uptown. But her partner is like, he's old school. He's like, everybody matters. We got to do it. And the least of us, we need to take care of. So they have their battles, and she's, she's a good person too. She just is broke, but so she's got a lot of moral battles she's got to face. And the two of them investigate this murder, and they wind up uncovering this huge homicidal conspiracy. And turns out that the corporations, the CEOs of the corporations are involved in this murder, and the woman who died is involved in the resistance movement. So these cops become reluctant heroes, and they wind up solving the murder, and they jumpstart the resistance, which has the jumpstart the revolution, which the resistance has a big action plan for Saturday night, and they do battle against a ferocious AI known as the Red Queen, and they
Mm.
um, and they and they win. At least for now, they win.
Oh, okay. So it might be continuing then?
We shall see.
Wow, what was your motivation for this story? It sounds like, I have all these main characters. And what was your motivation for going in that direction to have like an ensemble cast?
Well, it was really fun. I've got these two characters. I got the detective who's old school. Then I got the detective. Actually, her title is crime marketing consultant. The detective who is kind of in between. She's every woman. And then I've got the leader of the resistance, who's the detective's ex-girlfriend. And then I also have a couple characters, the Red Queen, and also a the woman who's the deputy director of the New York division of the Syndicate Intelligence Agency, which is descended from the CIA. And I really tried to show everybody's perspective, like the perspective of the woman from the Syndicate Intelligence Agency is, look, this world is good. We have no taxes. Income taxes way down because the government doesn't do anything. Corporations do everything. And yeah, people are owned, but on the other hand, people don't have to pay student loans anymore. And yeah, nobody gets decent health insurance, but hey, everybody has choice. It's all about freedom. And these home free people, they call homeless people home free people. These home free people, they're probably there because, they're drug addicts and alcoholics and mentally ill. Pretty much, if you're together, you're not going to wind up there. Just the way people now say that homeless people, a bunch of mentally ill drug addicts and so on. So, I try to show all the different perspectives, and that was the fun of the ensemble, trying to give everybody a really reasonable attitude. Like when I worked at Law and Order, Dick Wolf had a saying that Dick Wolf, who ran the show
Mhm.
ultimately, he had a saying that of the six main characters in the show, his ideal was to have each of the six characters have their own distinct perspective, and each distinct perspective was equally logical.
Mhm.
And he said he had never achieved that in any of his shows, but that was his goal. And that was my goal with this one. As to how I got the idea, it's funny. I went to see a lecture by a guy named David Nevins, who's this famous TV executive, who's produced a lot of successful shows, groundbreaking shows. And he said something that stuck with me, which is he said, the best TV shows are the ones that address our deepest fears.
Mhm.
And I thought about that. I walked home from the lecture that night and I thought, what are my deepest fears? And two words came to me, and those two words were student loans. And it was kind of an odd two words just because, I don't have student loans and our two kids had just then made it through college without any student loans. But for some reason, I don't know, it was that I was reading about it, and also about a month before I had been helping this 18-year-old girl who just gotten into colleges, and she wanted to go to a college that would have required $160,000 of student loans if she were to go through the 4 years, and another college, and that's the one she dreamed of going to. That was her dream school. She wanted to be a violinist, and it was a really good violin institution. And another school where she could have gotten in and spent like $20,000, had $20,000 in student loans afterwards. And she
Mhm.
really wanted to go to the first one. And my job was to crush her, Um, the job I had to do was to crush her dreams. Unfortunately, her parents weren't able to help her because they didn't speak English very well and didn't understand colleges, and they weren't, really able. They were great parents, but not able to help with this. So my job was to crush her dreams, basically. So I guess that's kind of, what was on my mind, and then that bounced out to, you know, everything that corporations get money from, and 40 years that I've been following politics, that the government's gotten weaker and weaker and less coherent, and the big six corporations and people like Elon Musk have gotten more and more powerful. So that's where the novel came from.
Wow, that is incredible. And so it's you consider it to be speculative, not like
Yeah,
dystopian. Okay.
You know, uh, it's just I call it both sometimes. I used to call it
Sure.
speculative. Yeah, most people they tend to call it dystopian, and I don't have any beef with that. I was thinking it's like near dystopian because it's not quite as messed up a world as some of the dystopian worlds,
Yeah.
but I'm cool with dystopian. And I notice like on Goodreads and so on, like the main keyword that people come up with for it is dystopian. So I call it a dystopian murder mystery thriller. That's my
Sounds like it. Wow.
that's
That
my
and a
name
little
for
bit
it.
of politics in there too, thrown in for fun.
Right.
Wow.
Dystopian political murder mystery thriller.
And so NBC has asked you to write to, make it a
Co
television like series or one
yes,
show.
to co-write a TV adaptation. So
Wow.
basically, my job is to co-write the pilot, and yeah, I mean that's been a lot of fun. The people from NBC and the producers and the studio have all been very good, and that's been a joy to work on for sure.
Oh, that's incredible. I'll have to definitely look for it. I'm sure it's probably not going to come out for a while because it has to be
Yeah,
worked and reworked and
it will, and statistically speaking, now of course I think it's the best script ever written by anybody, but statistically speaking, the chances are very slim that it'll come back out. So, for instance, NBC will order maybe 90 pilots. They'll pay 90 writers to write 90 different drama pilots, not including sitcoms, 90 different drama pilots in a year, and they might shoot six of them, and then maybe three of them will make it to air. So my chances of it becoming a series, just numerically speaking, are like 3 out of 90. So I wouldn't necessarily hold your breath for it. But on the other hand, of course, I think as I say, I think it's the best script ever written. So of course it'll be made.
Oh, I think so. I hope so. That'd be amazing.
Thank you.
It's so unique and different than what's out there right now. So,
Yeah.
but if you had a writer in front of you who was saying, "Hey, I have this novel that I wouldn't mind adapting for TV," what would be the first steps you would tell them to take?
I would ask them if they were interested in writing the pilot themselves, and then they might want to consider writing the pilot themselves. Um, if they think it's would be a good TV show, then I would suggest that they talk to any TV writers that they might know, any TV agents that they might know, their own literary agent, um, any actors who are famous that they might know, any directors. Um, and so that show it to people, and hopefully somebody will. I mean, the way that 51% happened is that my agent said, "Oh, this seems really good. Could be a good TV series," and set me up to meet with all these different producers. And then one of them said yes, and then with the producer, to the um, we went to the networks, and then one of them said yes, NBC. So. Uh, so I'm not really sure what advice to give except to try to put it in front of people in the TV world and who might be able to help you, and that would be agents, head writers, famous actors, famous directors, and then
Okay.
also if you want and you have time, write it up as a TV pilot, and you can spread that around in the same way, and then see if that works for you also.
Okay. Well, I know in movies, one page of the script equals 1 minute of film time. How does it work with a television show?
Well, usually an hour-long show for networks. Let's say a network show has maybe 43 minutes, not including the commercials. So that's 43 minutes long. And a Law and Order script might be 60 pages for that 43
Oh.
minutes. Um, when I wrote for Supernatural, because there's all this music in between the speeches, and because things are kind of slower, those scripts would run 43 or 44 pages.
Mm.
So probably the average of all the shows I worked on, was probably about 55, I'll say. And that's for, as I say, a network show that's 43 minutes long. So I would say if you're writing a pilot, this information is easily available on the internet.
Mm.
But, I guess I'd probably suggest, ideally keeping it, between, 53 and 60 pages, something like that.
Okay, so that's not, overwhelming for an author who wrote a 200 or 300 page book, right? But I guess what would be overwhelming is to condense it and hit the main plot points. You can't put everything in the show, so you would have to really condense it, right?
Right. I mean, for instance, with 51%, we put maybe the first tenth of the book
Mm.
into the show because it's not a movie. You're only doing a part of the book. So I mean, it depends. Different things are different. But in any
Yeah.
case, with 51%, it was only about one tenth of the book, and that was an hour long show.
And
So
that's something that writers need to realize. You may not be able to put everything in your book into the show or a movie if you're pitching a movie idea. It's hard sometimes to let go, right? Because
mhm.
you think, no, I love that character. You can't cut that character, but you have to be willing to just, let go and be adaptive. You have to learn to adapt to the different medium, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess one advice I would give to writers who want to adapt their own work is to find a TV show or a movie that's very similar to the TV show or movie that they want to write, and study it. Like see, okay, how many scenes are there? How long are the scenes? How many of them are, let's say you're writing I don't know, let's say a cop show. How many of them are solving the murder scenes, and how many of them are like more personal scenes that have nothing to do with it? How many are like a B story that's or a
Hmm.
comic C story? Just feel the rhythm of it, and hopefully find a couple of or a few different TV shows that are similar, and watch a few pilots, or a few movies that are similar and watch a few movies. Just to get a sense of what they're doing, and try to study it as much as you can. Like have your pause the TV show or movie, and just think about what you've just seen, and maybe write a note about what you've just seen, and just try to be slow with that. So that
Oh,
helps.
that's great advice. Wow.
Mhm.
Well, Matt, this has been wonderful. And listeners, head over to mattwittenwriter.com. That's Matt's website where you can see 51% there, his blog, his other books, TV, movies, and plays, and learn more about Matt. This is a wonderful website. I love it.
Thank you.
And can folks contact you and maybe ask you some questions, or do you have a newsletter? Or
Sure. They can contact me through the website, and I'll get back to you. And they can also find me at Matt Whitten 22 on Instagram as Matt Whitten 22. So those
okay,
would be the two best places to contact me, through Instagram or through the website.
okay. Well, what's coming next for you in 2026? You working on anything else besides
Uh,
the TV
yeah,
adaptation?
yeah, yeah. I'm working on a novel called The Men's Group, and that will be going out in submission soon. I'm doing a revision. My agent gave me excellent notes, so I'm executing those notes, and it'll go out on revision and on submission to publishers in a month or two.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we wish you nothing but the best. And listeners, like I said, 51%, head over to his website to learn more about it. It is out in the world right now, so get your copy. And Matt, thank you for joining me today. It sounds like you're really busy, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Ruth. I enjoyed talking with you.
That was so amazing to listen to Matt Whitten talk about his life, how he became an author, and how he writes for television. And now he is a novelist. Wow, that is incredible. I'm so excited to write now. I mean, he just really got me excited about thinking about the story and drafting these amazing characters, because it seems like that's the commonality between writing a novel and writing for television or the play. You got to come up with an amazing story, a plot that moves forward, and interesting characters, no matter if it's for the small screen or the stage or for a book. So be encouraged. Keep going. flesh out that story. And if you feel like maybe your book could become a television show, maybe reach out to Matt over at mattwhittenwriter.com. But most importantly, keep going forward on your writing journey, because that's what matters most. Someone out there needs to read your story. And until next time, thanks for listening. God bless.